Good afternoon, everyone. It is both an honor and privilege to welcome you all. Today, we come together to celebrate the art of debate. This competition is not merely a contest, but a showcase of critical thinking, analytical, and articulate expression. Our participants are here to grapple with complex issues and offer well-reasoned arguments on cashless society, providing us with a richer understanding of the topic. Now it's time to provide a brief overview of today's topic. There will be two rounds. First round will be an elimination round on cashless society, and second round, that is final round, will be on artificial intelligence. The rules for today's debate are: participants who are in favor of the topic must not change their views. The same is applicable to those who are in against. Facts should be correct and accurate. Offensive and personal comments will not be entertained. Each participant will get 3 minutes to express their point. We have two teams. First one, supply strikers who are in favor of the motion. The respective members are Aftab Alam, Avyash Singh, Jahanvi Kushwa, Bhumika Avasthi, Mohammad Shoaib. And the second one, the demand defenders who are against the motion. The respective members are Nishit Yadav, Garima Tiwari, Ashish Kumar, Shivansh Chaturvedi, and Disha Singh. We are privileged to have an esteemed panel of judges with us today, Astha ma'am and Deepak sir. Your role in this competition is crucial. We are grateful for your expertise. To all participants, remember this competition is not just about winning, but about learning and growing. Embrace the challenge, support one another, and make the most of this experience. So without further delay, let's start the debate. Best of luck to all participants, and may the best argument prevails.
A cashless society represents a leap towards modern convenience and streamlined financial transactions, paving a way for more efficient and connected future. Cashless society is a concept in which money changes hands through digital means rather than banknotes or coins. In practice, it would be like a person in his going day buying coffee, paying bills, shopping for groceries, etc., without even touching a bill or a coin. Digital payment helps transactions to be more swiftly using smartphones and other electronic devices. With just few taps, users can make payments for their goods and services, making it more convenient and efficient. I have some data that shows the gradual rise of digital transactions in recent years. According to worldbank.com, in financial year 2017-18, the digital payment transaction was 2071 crore rupees, that increased up to 18,592 crore rupees at the annual growth rate of 44%. It has increased 9 times just in past 7 years. One of the best usefulness of this digital payment method, I would like to share an example with you all. During the time of pandemic, when it was mandatory for all of us to remain far from each other, this digital payment mode helped us by providing easy mode of payment and being safe from the virus. According to worldbank.com, the total transaction of 3,50,446 lakh rupees were transacted during the pandemic, out of which 3,40,026 lakh rupees were transacted digitally. That is 97% of the total amount. This digital payment not only provides the convenience and efficiency, but also provides flexibility. Users can use various type of payment mode like net banking, online payment mode, UPIs, debit or credit card, wallet, etc. Suppose you are in a market and you are carrying cash, you run out of it and you need to buy something. If you are using a digital payment mode, you can use it for the payment that is linked to your bank account. But if you are carrying cash, then you will have no choice. That's it.
Good afternoon all of you. My name is Nishit and I will be speaking for the side not in favor of cashless societies. So, to begin with, the opposing team presented a very valid argument on how cashless societies work, its features and functions. So, as a response to that, I'd like to present some advantages that cash carries with itself. To begin with the first advantage, cash gives a person easy access. Cash can be accessed anytime, any place, anywhere by anybody. Cash does not require any kind of third-party intervention or technological systems to operate. Speaking of technology, the second advantage is no technology required. Cash exchanges requires no technology in such. Security is another advantage. Cash gives a person, individual, or even an institution a sense of security that in case of any mishappenings or emergency situations, medical emergencies, and as simple as bank server failures, cash gives a person security that he can transact his money or facilitate his transaction as a backup of cash. Security also comes along with privacy. Cash can be considered as the most private form of money. No one actually knows what amount of cash you are carrying, and especially when you deal in cash, your bank accounts are left untouched without giving a person a trace of money or any information. To move this debate forward, I'd like to present my first argument, that is overspending. Overspending means to spend more than the allocated amount. So why is this a problem? Because overspending or spending is good for the economy, right? Because more spendings, more investments, more employment, more work, and more income to households. Not rightly so, because the recent trends show that people are spending more from their savings and not from their recurring income. A report from IIIT Delhi shows that 74% of the people agree on spending more money because they are using various UPI and net banking apps. The Economic Times, a very famous newspaper, reported this in their article that ease and convenience of these UPI apps tend to make a habit in people that they spend more money on things that they don't actually need, thus creating a lack of spending awareness. A simple fact can be these apps hire multiple designers and developers so that they can make easy to use apps for you to spend your money for their profits. I would like to answer, or I would like the opposing team to answer this question and query that what the role our government is playing for controlling overspending and what are the solutions with some detailed answers. Thank you.
Well, as my friend asked about the over expenses done by the people through this digital payment mode. So in answer, I would like to inform him that the digital payment mode provides a comprehensive form of records. Question answer can be given by any of us. This digital payment method provides a comprehensive data record, and through these records one can look at his expenses done by him, and he can do financial budgeting, he can manage his expenses and control over his expenses. And if we are using cash, then there will be no record of expenses, and there will be chances of error in accounting that is involved in manual accounting. So my valid answer for this will be that it provides comprehensive record.
As long as privacy is concerned, we not only address privacy concerns, but we also work towards enhancing it. Because each and every transaction in our cashless economy leaves behind a footprint, which not only makes it easier to save us from frauds, and moreover, we are using advanced technology like
रिलैक्स हो जाओ, देख लो एक बार कहाँ लिखा है, इसमें ठीक है अच्छा कर लो, देख लो
as long as privacy is concerned, we not only address privacy concerns, but we also work towards enhancing it. For example, each and every transaction that takes place leaves behind a footprint, which can be used to save us from all these frauds. Unlike cash, which is completely untraceable and can be used for illegal activities like money laundering, black money, etc., each and every cashless transaction that takes place is recorded and can be used for verification. We use advanced technology to provide top-notch security and privacy to our users. As long as security is concerned, cashless economy is on a much higher ground as compared to cash economy. Because imagine you have a wallet with 3,000 rupees cash and a debit card, and your wallet gets stolen. What form of money is safer? Apparently your card is much more safe, because number one, you can block your card on your e-banking application on your phone, and number two, your card will require a PIN, a password and an OTP to operate. But what about the cash? As soon as the cash is stolen, there is no way to even identify that cash, even if you catch the thief. A cashless transaction system uses advanced technology, for example, two-step authentication, biometric methods, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, complicated and sophisticated neural networks, which actually specialize in solving cybercrimes before they even take place by doing real-time analysis. Moreover, we can also use blockchain technology. What is blockchain technology? Blockchain technology is a system of transactions in which each transaction takes place through various computer nodes, which makes it difficult to hack. This way, we will be providing top-notch security to our users. Now, I would like to talk about cashless economy as a green economy. Cashless economy is indeed a green economy, because the cost of producing and storing and disposing of cash is immense. Our planet Earth cannot take activities like deforestation, mining, and increased carbon emissions. For example, a country named Sweden, which is leading this cashless transition, has reported reduced carbon emissions. Thank you so much.
Now, as my friend have said very well, so according to him, I would like to ask my opponent a question, that cash is involved in illegal activities like money laundering, bribing, terrorist funding. So what are you suggesting for preventing these type of illegal activities?
So I would like to answer this question that cash is involved in many illegal activities. But I would like to highlight a point that digital transactions also comes along with many frauds, and OTP scams are now on a very high, especially when dark webs exists. I think you don't know that in dark web there is multiple illegal activities that involves malware that extracts money from people's credit cards illegally. Also, money laundering is an issue on dark web which is not available on surface web. So if you are saying that cashless economy is safe, I think you need to recheck your points.
I would further like to highlight my point, because I have read that recently bank manager was found making 3 fake accounts and helping the hacker to transfer money from individuals. So what are your points on that? And secondly, recently I heard, I read the newspaper of August 26 and it was found dreaming of becoming rich. 3 people lost their 2.3 crore rupees. So what are your opinion on that?
The main objective of cashless economy is to make transactions safe, far much more secure, and as I talked about, we will be using advanced technologies, blockchain technology, as I talked about it. It is a system of transactions, hacking in which each transaction will be taking place through various computer nodes, making it very difficult to hack. And this blockchain technology is also being incorporated in forms of money, like for example cryptocurrencies. So the main purpose of cashless economy is to make transactions far much more secure, far much more private, and the main objective is to make sure that people out there who are trying to exploit this so-called privacy for conducting all these illegal activities. Through cashless economy, each and every transaction will be taking place on an online portal, and this way we will also increase our tax collection, and all the transactions will be listed on a server.
I have a question actually. You said that cash transaction help in emergency situation, but I think emergency don't have any alarm and it does not notify us. Then what will you say that cash is sufficient to make the payment? I think cashless transaction will help in making the payment during emergency.
I would like to answer your question. You said emergency didn't alarm you from before. In case if you earthquake comes or network gets failed, then will you be able to make purchases? Okay, good morning everyone. Myself Garima Tiwari, and I would like to propose my opinion why not cashless society. Okay, so first and foremost thing that come to our mind is privacy. Whenever we transact digitally, each and every purchase and transaction is recorded, which can be easily traced. This leads to surveillance and erosion of privacy. As per the report of News 18, it was found that Aadhaar details of 81.5 crore people were leaked. And as you all know, the famous internet entrepreneur Mark Zuckerberg and about his case of breaching the information of its user, if he can do such things, then how can one rely on small and other enterprises? Secondly, the accessibility content. There are people who are not finding it very easy for them to use. The best example is older adults, the maids working in our house, and the rural people. As per the report of IIT Bangalore, it was found that 66% of respondents were unable to use digital payment method. Now, and it is found that they are more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Okay, here comes the most crucial point, that is cyber attack. When we talk about digitalization, how can we forget about cyber attack? When we open ourselves to digitalization, we even open ourselves to the trap of digital crime. It is found by Kaspersky that 10 million crore cyber threats was found in the Q1 of this year. Secondly, it is found that when you are dependent on cashless, you are dependent on technology. Means at a click of a mouse, it can make you rich, and even it can make your balance nil. Secondly, it is dependent on your internet connectivity, which is not at all possible during the time of pandemic or any outrages, as the case can be seen in Ukraine, Palestine and other countries which are involved in war-like situation. And I would like to portray my point from pandemic, where cashless though was in favor, but it was difficult for the people who were dependent on wage rate, where they were paid on cash. What are your opinions on that? I would like to further illustrate an example. While I was searching for my content, I got to know that a village named Kelavali in Maharashtra, there she opened a bank account thinking that they will be getting 5,000 as overdraft facility. This was a misinformation conducted to the people. Here from this, I would like to conclude that there are two impacts of this. They are not digitally and financially literate. Secondly, banks are unoperative, so how can you talk about digital payment? Then, because of this unoperative and cyber attack, 1.2% of GDP falls. That's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon everyone, myself Janvi. A cashless society can enhance significantly.
Well, actually, we have many laws. For example, GDPR, Data Protection Act 2018, and moreover, Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. This is the first point.
Please speak aloud.
Okay. We have many laws like GDPR, Data Protection Act 2018, Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, and this is my first point. And the second point is that you don't need to be Mark Zuckerberg to use cashless economy, because our interface will be very user friendly. We will be having multiple features, for example, voice assistance, natural language generation, natural language processing, and even many other measures, for example, two-step authentication. And moreover, we are taking widespread efforts through Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, which aims to provide literacy to all these people. And moreover, as far as internet connectivity is concerned, a number of projects are under development which aim to provide high-speed internet through low Earth orbiting satellites.
And few more points I would like to add in his point. You asked about cyber fraud. According to Statistica.com, in year 2019, around 2,57,777 cases of cyber frauds were filed, and out of which 30% of them were solved. And in 2020, around 4 lakh cases were filed, out of which 29% were solved. Police were able to solve these cases just because of digital trails, and monitoring was possible just because of digital payment method. And if I talk about cash, then in 2022, around 6,52,000 cases were filed of theft and loots, and only 14.1% police was able to solve, just because of lack of evidence and digital trails. And the second thing you said, that availability of coverage of these network services. So for that I have some data. According to Network Readiness Index, India has 99% of 4G services, over 6 lakh villages included, and 68.3% of 5G coverage all over India, and is still increasing. And in 2019, India was on 79th position, and it increased its position up to 60th position in 2023. So it is increasing.
Keep your answers brief, otherwise it will get very long, right?
Done. Ma'am, first question from me, second question from me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janvi. A cashless society can significantly enhance business mobility and business operability by reducing cost and increasing efficiency. This can be supported by following data that a digital payment is faster than the cash payment. On average, a cash payment takes 5 to 6 seconds, while a digital payment takes only 2 to 3 seconds. This can lead to up to 50% faster track checkouts in the retail environment, improving customer satisfaction and reducing the cool time. In India, they have seen a rapid growth of cashless transaction in 2022 by 42%. Businesses that handle cash spends around their 1.5% to 2.5% of their revenue on the cash cost management, such as transportation, counting, and securities. A cashless transactions leaves a digital trail that can be easily tracked by the government, which helps us to reduce the illegal activities such as corruption, tax evasion, and money laundering. In India, the introduction of digital payment like UPI has led to an increase in tax collection by 18% in 2019. According to the Ministry of Finance, with the fewer cash transactions, authorities can better track down the tax revenue, reducing tax evasion. As per the data, informal or black economy, there is accounts for 20 to 25% of black money of GDP in some countries. A cashless transaction emphasizes on usability of digital payment. A digital payment As digital payment are more sustainable because they don't wear and tear like a physical currency. So what are about the thoughts on that? And my question is, what measures they are going to take against the bribery and illegal activities that are formed by physical cash?
Now I want to express my views against cashless economy. As you know, technology is increasing. It has advantage and disadvantage as well. So from the point of view of cashless economy, now I want to explain why cashless economy is not good. First is loss of financial autonomy. As you know, as the cashless economy is growing, we need multiple institutions like NPCI and other third-party app, which may indulge in fraud and there is chances of breach of privacy. And second is social consideration and cultural consideration. As you know, India is a very diverse country and it has population of various type of people. Suppose there is a marriage, and in marriage we have a ritual that is known as sagun. We have to give cash, not we are taking any QR code and we have to payment. Suppose in next year there is a Kumbh Mela, and now we are going to donate something to Ganga Maiya. Then what will we say? Suppose listen, what will we say? Please Ganga Maiya, open your QR code and I want to make payment. So I don't think this is I don't think this here the cashless economy will be preferred. And the next is economic resilience. As my friend says, that what will be says in case of emergency. Suppose there is a political upheaval or social upheaval like in Manipur. Then what will we say? We will more prefer cash, because there is, as per the data in last year, in 2023, in India there is much more internet ban than all other countries. So in case of internet disruption, how we will make payment? Second is potential of increased debt. As multiple platforms are increasing, multiple platforms are offer loan at very higher rate of interest, and people are also accepting it because they don't have they don't want to indulge in any documentation process. Last is environmental concern. This is very important. Suppose for the cashless economy, we need server and money data center, which again could create an environmental impact and generate e-waste for 1,000 years. Cash can be degraded within 1 year. But in case of cashless economy, it could harm the economy. Okay, thanks.
My mobile, my bank, my wallet. And as per our Prime Minister, if we all start transacting through online and mobile banking, it would be a great contribution toward eradicating the corruption and black money. As my friends already explained the meaning of the cashless society and various benefits, now I would like to continue with some more benefits. The first is cost efficiency. Carrying cash for Indian economy is quite expensive, like printing currency, maintaining banks and the ATMs, and it incurred a significant cost. As per the Visa expert, the cashless society can save 23,000 crore annually by not printing currency and maintaining banks. Additionally, a business can also increase their productivity by reducing the cash handling cost. And we can see the example of a country, Sweden. There, the retailers do not accept cash. Only 20% of the transaction are made through the cash, and rest of the transaction are made their popular app Swiss. And the second benefit of the cashless society is direct benefit transfer. Indian government provide different type of benefit like pension, scholarship and LPG subsidies. And direct benefit transfer can be a prime example to show that following a cashless society can prevent from leakage and corruption. As per the data of the 2022, 5.5 lakh crores were directly transferred to the beneficiary account, which reduces the dependence on intermediary, reduces the delay in transactions and increase the transparency. The cashless society also helps to increase the e-commerce, which helps to increase the business operation and customer satisfaction. As per the World Bank report, the cashless society helps to increase $6.3 trillion to the global GDP, and may increase 1 trillion euro across European Union in tax collection. This is not only customer satisfaction is also important for any business. Hence, customer will choose the business which provide multiple payment options like credit card and digital wallets. Last but not least, cashless society helps to the economic development of any country. Economic efficiency is most important for the development of any country, and as per the data of the World Bank, the cashless society helps to lift 1 billion people out of the poverty by 2030 by saving their money in bank account rather than spending in day-to-day actual life. Because if we have cash in their hand, then spend increase. Thank you.
Myself, Sivan Chaturvedi. My friend highlighted the amount in crores. India is transacting crores of rupees in UPI through UPI and online transaction. Who will talk about the poorest who is spent 33 rupees per day or less, who comes under poverty line? According to census 11 and 12, 21.9% of people under poverty line. And
You can look into your notes, don't worry.
as digital transactions require electronic devices which causes e-waste. According to Global E-Waste Monitor 2022, world has generated 52.7 million metric ton of e-waste. These e-waste are generally from computer and mobile phone. According to Central Pollution Control Board in India has generated 3.8 million metric ton of e-waste in 2022. According to Central Pollution Board of India, 70 to 80% of e-waste is managed by informal sector and only 25% of e-waste managed by formal sector. In India has made many regulations regarding e-waste management, like e-waste management rules 2016. However, the rule impact was very weak, and I would like to ask the question. I would like to ask the question to the favored team: how Indian government or authority manage the e-waste crisis in India? Thank you.
To add to the discussion, I would like to put forward the point of crisis situation. At the time of emergencies or crisis, cash is a more vital source than digital payment. As Garima has already told about internet shutdown, I am giving you a real life instance about it. Like in Jammu and Kashmir in August 2019, the internet was completely shut down, resulting in a huge risk to the economy, and which shows us the risk of digital payment in crisis. Furthermore, I would like to keep the point of digital transaction cost. As you guys have said, cost efficiency of digital payment. Well, let me tell you, in India, the digital transaction cost is 0.5% to 3% of the transaction fee, and which also plus transaction additional fees, which are bank fees and payment gateway fees, etc. Now moving towards my next point, which is limited merchant appearance through digital payment. According to a survey, 45% of merchants, small businessmen, or you could say medium-sized businesses found it complex to involve digital payment in their day-to-day operations. There are 30% of people who are merchants who are discouraged to use digital payment due to their high setup cost. Moving towards my next point, which is increased transaction times. So due to increased transaction times, we face loss of finance and missed opportunities at the time of high pressure situation like financial trading. It also affects the small and street vendors by long queues, loss of sales, and customer dissatisfaction. As well as it worsens the inequality at the areas where internet connectivity is poor. Moving on to the next point, which is money laundering. Well, direct benefit transfer, which you were talking about, money laundering through digital transaction is very common nowadays. You guys might have heard about dark web, which is a hidden part of internet that gives a platform to all the illegal activities happening over the internet, which involves financial crimes. Well, a survey says that 15% of scholarships and pensions are not transferred to the bank accounts due to non-ethical hacking and money laundering, of course. Moving towards my last point, which is infrastructure gaps. According to a report by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, only 29% of rural households have access to internet. And according to a report by Department of Telecommunication, still 25% of rural households do not have mobile connectivity. So, let alone internet access. So, how can we say that a cashless economy is inclusive and relevant?
My friends, I would like to conclude the choice before us is clear. We can either cling to a system fraught with inefficiencies, or we can either move toward future where transactions are more secure, reliable, fast and convenient. Thank you.
I would like to answer your question with some keywords that you used, that is e-commerce and efficiency. As my friend Disha said that only 29% of the people in the Indian population have internet access or constant internet access. How can you say that efficiency is a efficiency can be a key role in development of the economy while 71% of people don't have internet access? Also, if you want to address e-commerce, I think you need to readjust your points to say that if cashless or digital transactions are promoting e-commerce, it is also killing small-scale business development or small-scale businessmen. Thank you.
First of all, as Disha said, that people don't have much connectivity, but according to the Department of the Information, approx 80 to 82% people have their own cell phones, and I think smartphones have their mobile data too. And if you have their mobile phones, then online payment cannot be a problem, because as he said that device is creating problem, people don't have device. But as if you have smartphones, then you can have a device, then you can make payments. And the second thing, you are saying that e-commerce is creating problem. So after 2016, when demonetization took place, people were moving toward more to the UPI and other online platform, and after that the India's MSME grow and entrepreneurship increases. Even the GST and tax collection increases more fairly as compared to the earlier period. So I think cashless society can helps to increase in economic development. Even the fine sector company creating 10 lakh new job opportunities, which helps to reduce their unemployment, and unemployment can be reduced, lead to their economic development. I want to point out as Ashish said that Ganga Maiya don't have QR, then Ganga Maiya don't have hands to accept the cash even. And you were saying that boatman tried to accept cash, but boatsmen also have their QR, which will increase their saving. I think if people will start using cashless payments, then especially those people who are earning regular income like 300 and 400 per day, if they start saving some amount, a very less amount, then this will help to even their emergency situation and in their future growth also.
Well spoken.
well-spoken participants. Thank you for your thoughtful arguments. As this was an elimination round, so only 3 members from both the team will be going forward for the next round, which is on artificial intelligence. Now judges will announce who will be moving forward.
पाँचवें नंबर पे जो है दिशा, ये 3 शॉर्टलिस्ट हमने करा
बस तो ख़त्म हो गया चलो everybody spoke so well but we have to choose 3 candidates from each team. So from team A we have selected Mohammad Aftab Alam, and then Avyash Singh, and then Bhumika Awasthi. And from team B, we have selected Nishit Narayan Yadav and Garima Tiwari and Disha Singh.
I would just like to add something to it. All of you were very good. You all had made an effort. You tried to gather data. You substantiated your statements with facts. So all of you put in a lot of effort, that is appreciated, but since it is an elimination round and we had to choose the best 3, but that doesn't mean that the others were not good enough, right? You were all very good and better luck next time.
Now here goes the final round. Artificial intelligence.
I'll introduce. Good afternoon everyone, and thank you for letting me speak again. Innovation has been a part of mankind ever since. The man invented the fire, the wheel formed civilizations. And these civilizations then again formed multiple inventions that are important to humans as well. Out of those innovations, printing press was the major inventions in the 15th century. These printing presses gave birth to books that gave ideas such as industrialization. Industrialization popularized and commercialized many things such as electricity. Soon after, in the 18th century, Charles Babbage invented the first computer. These computers evolved and gave ample of opportunities to humans to explore. Out of those opportunities, we are living in one that is the technological age. Artificial intelligence is the latest addition to this technological age. Artificial intelligence means a set of technologies that enables a computer to perform advanced tasks such as speech recognition, data analysis, constant learning, and multiple aptitude thinking and decision making. Ever since humanity have found the right tools to operate and adapt AI, we have never looked back. And these adaptations have gave multiple benefits to various sectors in the economy. These benefits include taking up risky tasks in heavy industries, reducing human error, and improving the overall efficiency in an organization as well as individuals. AI has been a significant step in popularizing and commercializing many difficult tasks that computers could not do because computers were programmed to do similar and straight functions. Forbes reported that manufacturing sector alone will benefit from an amount of rupees for an amount of $3.8 trillion by 2035. Also, Forbes reported that 97% of business owners will agree on that AI will help them in performing and improving the overall efficiency of their businesses. Thank you.
Today, I am here to tell you the very danger and limitations of AI. AI promises revolutionary advancements, but we must not forget its profound negative consequences also on our society, humanity, and our future world. The first topic I would like to talk about is dependency on AI reduces human skills. Today, AI is increasingly integrated with everyday tasks. Everyone is becoming everybody is becoming more dependent on AI. Even for small problem solving and critical thinking, people are using these AIs. The reliance of on these AIs, people can lose their very traits which makes us humans by losing the traits of empathy, creativity and ingenuity. The second topic I would like to talk about is lack of empathy and human emotion in AI. AI is totally based on data and it works on logic, but the roles that required deep human emotional intelligence, where their AI will fail. For example, I would like to share incidents that a boy with 30 to 40 rupees in his hand went to a shop for a burger, and the cost of that burger was 80 rupees. The shop owner told the price of that burger, and that boy sadly started returning back. That shop owner called him and put some extra money from his own pocket and gave him that burger. Can you imagine if in that place of human, if AI was there, would it have happened? No. Third topic I would like to talk about is threat to privacy. The growth of AI surveillance poses a threat to personal informations. Sometimes we can see, somewhere we have seen also, that Mark Zuckerberg, the data analyst of Mark Zuckerberg, he was using sellotape over his microphone and camera to prevent his privacy to be breached. So can we think living in a society where our privacy is scrutinized by these AIs? That's it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Artificial intelligence is the key for unlocking the future of unprecedented efficiency, growth and innovation. As we all know, the world is moving fastly towards modernization and innovation. So, if we are harnessing the power of AI, an individual and organization can grow on individual basis as well as on the societal basis as whole. Now, I would like to propose some of the benefits of using AI or artificial intelligence. First is its efficiency. When you use AI, it automates your mundane tasks, making your time free so that you can carry on with your more important work. Basically, it delegates your less important work and give you more time to think over your more important work, which is very beneficial for the entrepreneurs. They can focus on more important tasks. For example, if you use AI tool, it can be helpful in keeping book entry and maintaining the records of customers, which reduces the time. Secondly, it increases the productivity of an organization. Further, a large amount of data can be summarized and analyzed by it, making your thinking and decision more efficient. Then it provides 24/7 availability feature anywhere, anytime. You can use it in your hometown or you can use abroad, which is very beneficial for the ones where semantic barrier can be a problematic. As we all have heard the advertisement of Galaxy S24 where they say just circle it and translate whatever you wish to. It's not about that expensive smartphone set, but even our old smartphone set we use. The best example is Meta AI of WhatsApp, then Google Gemini, and the third is ChatGPT we all are using. And I would like to further mention the opponents which are against the favor, even they have somewhere used AI for speaking against it. Okay, and then it is further found that it has a great role in shaping an economy. Developed countries like USA and Japan, USA is known as the hub for AI, and even the Japan's government is promoting AI by initiating Society 5.0 plan. Now, it can be very helpful in any sector, whether it comes to entertainment and entertainment like Netflix and Prime Video, where you just you can go and search what you have watched earlier. Then it can be used in banking sector. Now you don't have to stand in a queue. You can just use AI chat booth, and it can provide you all the services. Further, ISRO has also acknowledged AI's role in Chandrayaan mission, which is a very much impactful impact on our economy, leading to Viksit Bharat. Thank you.
One of the biggest concerns of artificial intelligence is unemployment. We are already witnessing widespread automation in various fields which used to provide millions of jobs to people, like manufacturing, logistics, and even sensitive areas like law and healthcare. According to the World Economic Forum, more than 85 million jobs will be displaced by 2025. We are often told that AI will be bringing more employment, more opportunities. I would like to argue that each of these new opportunities require new skills and new knowledge, like natural language generation, natural language processing, computer vision, data curation, data exploration, data collection, data analysis. What about that? This is not convenient for everyone. How about someone who is in his 40s and is supporting a family? How will that person immediately learn a new field? And what about that truck driver who has just lost his job to an AI model that can drive cars? How do you plan to convert that truck driver into an AI professional capable of creating AI models? Next, I would like to say that we are told that AI will create better decision making. But I would like to remind you that AI is capable of making errors, because it does not have any empathy. There is no emotional intelligence. We are talking about deploying this AI model in very sensitive areas like law and healthcare. What if the artificial intelligence model ends up passing the wrong judgment in court? What if, like for example, there have been some cases. For example, Microsoft AI chatbot quickly learned and began spewing racist and inflammatory content due to biased data it was exposed to. It was shut down within 16 hours. Now I would like to say the supporters of artificial intelligence would say that artificial intelligence is going to save our time and we can invest our energy into more productive areas. But they do not understand the reality of economic inequality. The very nature of economic inequality is that the people at the top are going to view this as an opportunity. What about the people who are doing manual jobs? People who do not have education, house helpers. How do you aim to make them specialists in mathematics, programming, and that too? And are you expecting that these people will just leave all their jobs, which is actually providing income, and they'll start just learning a new discipline? I would like to say that artificial intelligence is giving jobs only few people can do, and is taking away jobs that almost anyone can do, even someone who does not have education. Thank you so much.
AI has several benefits, and I would like to mention few of them. Starting with decision making, AI, we all know how a good decision making is important in business for its success. And AI helps in analyzing the vast amount of data and providing an insight about that data so that the business can take its advantage and give some data driven decisions which would further help them for their success. It also predicts the outcomes, risks, opportunities which a business could face in upcoming future. For an instance, it helps a retailer to manage their inventory and reduce their outstocks. It is said that AI could help a business by increasing its efficiency by 15% and reducing its cost by 10%. Now further, AI have a wider scope. It expands capabilities and enabling exploration of new insights and frontiers, which provides an innovation in various fields like medical and climate change, etc. Moving towards my next point, which is adaptability. AI can learn, adapt and improve themselves according to the changing needs to ensure that they are relevant and responsive, and it can also adapt to an individual's preferences and behavior. Moreover, in talking about environmental concern, we all know how much important our environment is for us, and AI addresses the necessity of environmental concern and reduces the energy consumption by 20%. I would like to end my points with few lines. We stand at the threshold of new era, and let us choose to unlock the full potential of AI, create a world without limit. Thank you.
We all know Elon Musk, and according to the Elon Musk, it is a risk to the human civilization that if we create more smarter than us, then we will lose control on that. And even according to the Stephen Hawking, if the fully artificial intelligence is developed, then the human civilization is going to end. It is, as my friends already explained various benefits of the AI, now I would like to tell you that how AI can negatively impact our society, our health, our society and our culture. AI, according to the data, 77% of the people are not even able to absorb AI in their existing workflow. And it is a myth or what? Let's understand by various limitations. The first limitation of AI can be AI don't use common sense. As we know that common sense is rarely found in the humans also, then how can we expect that it is available in machines? And AI has lack of common sense. If we give AI instruction that this, suppose a box is not being fixed in a suitcase, then whether we give dimensions, length, width, it will give answer that this box is not going to fix in suitcase. It don't use their common sense. And the second limitation can be data dependence. AI require lot of data to respond their questions and training. And AI can perform poorly if data is significantly different. Let's understand with a clear example. Suppose voice recognition. If we set our AI in English voice recognition and we use any other type of language and like Hindi and other, AI will be unable to answer that question. Third limitation is most important, that is privacy and the content that AI provided. Like we almost know that the crime is increasing day by day, as there is an app called deepfake app technology. With that, people are creating fake videos of the individual by saying and doing they didn't actually done, and due to this they harm their moral and the society. According to me, that is most badly affect our society. Due to AI, 38% of the people are leaving their job because they are not aware of the well technology. And not only this, AI also impacted our environment, because one AI training required that much of energy which a car spent in their whole life. Thank you.
I would like to answer Avyash's question that he said 85 million jobs will be replaced by AI. I think he needs to recheck the fact that if AI is replacing job, it is also creating new ones. According to Forbes, 97 million jobs will be created by AI, and that involves all the sectors, because AI is applicable on every sector. I listed in my introduction that human tendency to evolve and innovate. People innovated and adapted. If we are innovating AI, we should adapt to it, because economically thinking, this is a very hard truth, that if you don't evolve to modern situations and techniques, you will be left behind. Thank you.
I would further like to highlight his point, as he mentioned that people of ages 40 cannot use it. We all have Google. There we have Google Gemini with mic, I suppose, and there when you click, it can recognize your voice, it can understand you, and can deliver you the important message as per your requirement. So it cannot be a barrier. Secondly, as she mentioned about people are not getting education, and it can be very useful, because right from the very small child, even that child is also using for listening story to the one of old age. They are also listening to the news and song. So this argument is also invalid according to me. Thank you.
So I have one question. Now suppose you are having an operation and there are two doctors. One is human and second one is operated by an AI. Which one do you trust? And then second thing, as my opponent team have already mentioned, the name dark web. The complete, it is based on AI. So if AI is not working, then these kind of illegal stuff will be stopped. And last, the loss of control. AI is far more intelligent than us. It knows, it adapts data, it knows much more thing than a human can understand and learn. So what will happen if we lose control over AI and it spiral out of our control?
AI is made by human. It is human who gives the input to AI, and then AI gives the output. So when, even she mentioned about deep fake, so when an user is giving the input, then only it is operating. Otherwise, AI is not going to work. This was my answer. AI is just a tool empowered by an individual. If he is using it in a correct way, then it will be benefiting the society, and if it is using in a bad way, it will definitely be a curse on the society.
I would like to add to that, because even before deepfake was a thing, Photoshop was very trendy, and in the modern age of AI, there are various websites where you can use AI for only verifying that the image generated is of AI or is it real.
First of all, I would like to say, no one is going to get a job in artificial intelligence by saying that I have been studying from Google. First of all, and second of all, MIT 2018 found nobody is going to get a job in artificial intelligence. No one is going to become an artificial intelligence expert by just saying that I have studied from Google. And second of all, MIT 2018 found that available facial recognition systems had an error rate of 34% for dark-skinned women, compared to less than 1% for lighter skinned men. And now I would like to start my question. Considering that cash-based economies rely heavily on physical infrastructure, printing, securing and transporting cash, and given that payment systems have been proven to reduce these costs dramatically, how do you justify continuing a cash-based system when studies have shown...
AI.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. Considering the potential for AI to exponentially enhance productivity, how do you address the risk of AI-induced economic instability, where rapid automation could lead to unforeseen consequences like systemic financial crisis exacerbated by high-frequency trading algorithms? Can you provide a comprehensive risk assessment framework for managing these potential crises, especially given the lack of historical precedents for such rapid technology change?
As you mentioned, nobody is going to get a job by saying I have learned from Google. I would like to say that you all have heard the names of startup by our government. There you are the master of your own. You can use AI, develop your skills and can be your own master. There nobody is going to ask did you learn from Google or where? No degree required there.
As she said, that individual is the one who provide input to the AI, otherwise AI will be unable to do anything. But as I mentioned, that deepfake accounts making the realistic video which help to earn money easily. If people are providing just input and earn money easily, then how will they then why will they do hard works? And my question, this was my point actually. My question is, how can we coexist with the machines that inherently lack human value? And if it is possible to teach machine, then what ethics, empathy or campus we can teach? Because AI cannot understand the feelings of humans.
To conclude your point that if we are coexisting with machines, I think I would like to add that ever since 18th century we have been coexisting with machines, and we are furthermore evolving and improving the AI models. Also, to give a simple fact that 15 years back when I was a child, my father introduced me to internet. I was the first one in his computer to make a Google search. I searched for cars and I wasn't believing what I was seeing because there were multiple images of cars. If humans are so smart, or if humans can make that possible for a 5-year-old kid, why not after 15, 20, 30, 50 years? Why do you think that we cannot coexist with machines? That was the last point.
And then you spoke about the emotions. We have so much of population, about 1 point something million crore. Then how are you dependent on AI for your emotions? We have people around us. AI is just a tool, as I mentioned. You can use it for your benefit. Why to express emotions with a machine? You have people around us.
At present, a distressed person is mainly don't have friends or the family. They try to move toward the chats to share their emotions and feelings, but the ChatGPT are unable to solve their problems. Actually, the humans are the only who can solve and understand the feeling of a human. And the second point that he said that in 18th century we were also with machines, but from 18th century till now we were dependent on machine, but I think as we are increasing the use of AI, now the machines will be depend on the humans. Sorry, humans are dependent. Means machines will be more important than the humans. It will lead to the decline in the human lives.
now I would like to request audience if they would like to ask any questions from the participants regarding the artificial intelligence. Why is it Bodo?
As the defending team is saying कि they should provide the AI to all, it's more like providing bullets to all the people without knowing the ability for what they are going to use that. What? You are saying that AI should be available to all, right? You are saying it. So you are not saying that available. So you are saying that AI shouldn't be provided to all.
It is useful. I am not mentioning it should be provided. It is already provided by the companies. We cannot say anything in that.
It won't be useful if it is not provided to a single person. The example that she is saying, it's more like giving, again I am saying that it's more like giving bullets to all the people and thinking, okay, the humans will understand that they have to use it correctly. If it is so, there will be no crimes if we had that much sense.
AI is just a tool. It is again dependent on you. These are thoughts which we actually put in it.
Then why provide rules and regulations for humans?
If you are using for your studies, that is good, but the other person doesn't do the same.
As you said that all humans' thinkings are not safe, then what about you think that AI can be misused?
Alright, let it not be a GD round. It was meant to be a debate session, not a business session. So we have come to the end. One team as the winner. Both the teams analyzed were equally competent. Both of you and celebrated points. You were able to defend the points spoken by you, and the other team asked questions. You were able to. That way, both the teams were good enough, right? But because we had to, it's a competition. No, I don't need this. But because it's a competition, so we had to select one best person from each team and one best team, so we have to do that. But don't be demotivated, you all were very good, right? So she will just speak out the names of the winners and the winning team.
As a team, Supply Striker is the winning team. And for the best team,
Just by 1 mark. They are ahead by just 1 mark.
There are several criteria.
and for the best speaker, from the Supply Striker, Abhyash is the best speaker, and from Demand Defenders, Garima is the best speaker. Congratulations, guys.